How did Lando Norris win that one? It was a really exciting Hungarian Grand Prix. Here are my 3 takeaways from the event. Let's go with takeaway number 1. I got my notes beside me, and we'll talk about Lando's execution of the one-stop strategy. It's easy, really, to fall for the misconception that the better strategy is always the easiest one. However, you have to factor the driver in the middle of all of it as well, and the driver making the difference within some of these cases. I heard from Andreas Stella following this one, and he had said that a baseline strategy was a two-stopper. That was going to be the most competitive and the fastest strategy through this entire race. They didn't really think of the one-stopper. They had some talks about it behind the scenes before we went racing. However, they didn't really consider it. When they extended Lando's opening stint of this race, and they were pushing for the one-stopper, for him, they still didn't believe that it was going to work. It was going to be a serious strategy for them. But Lando, he managed to put together some really strong laps, strong sector times, and being able to manage the tire was so crucial. And that is something that Lando's always been really good at, managing the tire wear so he has enough tire rubber left to go and attack when he has to, protect when he needs to, and execute fastest laps or personal bests, things of that nature when it's called upon. Yes, he had a strategy that did save him a lot of time, but like I said, Lando's driving is the one that really did make the difference here. I heard from Oscar Piastri following this one, and it was interesting to note that he said even if there were 5 laps left in the race, he said it was still going to be challenging to get past Norris. He was going to need to have to pit again to get fresher tires, to have the tire delta, to even have a run at easily getting by Lando. Essentially, when you take a look at this thing, Norris was doing such a good job of saving up that battery coming out of the final turn, and McLaren's DRS effect isn't even that great that, was always going to be difficult for Piastri to kind of get past Lando. And I think also Norris having just enough rubber left on the tire to keep Piastri at bay, that was a good job done from Norris, just conserving the tire when he needed to. Also, when you take a look at this thing, limiting his mistakes, because we know that Lando has made mistakes during this season, and sometimes they've been big ones. But in this race, felt that he did a great job of really concentrating, because what ends up happening when the tire rubber on the tire itself starts to go down or go away, your window of mistakes in the car being forgiving are shrinking. And so you have to limit the amount of mistakes that you're making while you're pushing the car to its limit or on the limit. Because what happens is if the car has a lot of tire rubber on it, it's got a lot of grip, so you make a mistake, the car can kind of help you get out of that mistake, where when the tire rubber starts to go away, that mistake gets exaggerated and it turns into a huge issue. And so I think for Lando, really staying focused in that moment was really crucial, because this championship battle between these two drivers, it's going all the way to the end. I think it's going all the way to Abu Dhabi, and it's going to come down with whoever makes the least amount of mistakes within this championship, I think is going to be the driver that wins this one. Let's move on to topic number 2. Did Ferrari give this race away? I mean, George Russell's comments at the end of this one I found very interesting. When he was traveling behind Charles Leclerc, Russell had made note in the post-race press conference that the car looked like it had been running, pretty close to the ground. And he also referenced that they turned the engine down as well. And what does that do? Well, it helps with limiting plank wear. So the plank that's underneath the race car, that gets measured by the FIA following every race. And they measure to see how much thickness is left in that plank. And if it's been worn down too much, it means you've ran the car too close to the ground, and that is usually disqualification. It's already happened to Ferrari once this season with Lewis Hamilton in China. It is something that they struggle with. That's why they introduced that new rear suspension for the Belgian Grand Prix, was to help limit that plank wear and being able to run the car at different ride heights, different levels in conjunction with where the pavement is. And so when we take a look at the final stint, it was done by Charles Leclerc, because that's where it looked like the real issues really opened up. Really interesting to note when he went to those hard tires, though, and just how much that competitive nature dropped off. There were some rumors floating around the paddock that maybe Ferrari had boosted the tire pressure in those hard tires, which would then lift the car off the ground a tiny bit to avoid excessive plank wear. So that, could be a theory as well. I heard from Leclerc, though, following this one, and he had said the final stint was a tough one. It was a disaster. He wouldn't really elaborate on what exactly he thought it was. He said when he first felt the issues on the final stint, though, he thought it was a change that they had made to the front wing, and they'd gone too aggressive with it. But when he first felt the aggressive change with the car and the car's handling, he knew then he was in trouble. He was in trouble of losing P2. He was in trouble of losing the race win. He was in trouble of just even trying to stay on the podium, which he didn't. And it wasn't happening to him in every single corner. That was another thing that he had described. So really hard to navigate and pinpoint and pick out what exactly happened on that final stint with the Ferrari. But I think the positive thing is for the team is the fact that they were very competitive here. Oscar Piastri said at the end of this one that he was having trouble catching and staying with Charles Leclerc. He said Charles was really, really fast. And McLaren's main focus was trying to make sure they beat Charles and how challenging that it was going to be. They all knew that Ferrari was going to be hard to beat here. And I think for Ferrari moving forward, that's a positive sign when you know your driver, Charles Leclerc, is operating at such a high level this season. You have Lewis Hamilton as well, who is going to catch up. I think we are going to see Ferrari play a role in some of these races for race victories later on this season, because I don't think we've heard the last of Ferrari potentially winning a race here or there. Takeaway number 3, it's got to be Aston Martin. Where did Aston Martin's performance actually come from? Because they were so fast this weekend when you take a look at where they were in the Belgian Grand Prix, which was a disaster for them, starting on the back row, not even collecting points in that race. But then you get 7 days later, you get to the Hungarian Grand Prix, and all of a sudden this car's got a ton of performance and a ton of pace. So I heard from Lance Stroll, I heard from Fernando Alonso, both of them at the end of this one, and both were concerned at the end of the Belgian Grand Prix. They were concerned with the direction this car was going in, and they were concerned that they may never be able to score points for the rest of the season. But then when they got to Hungary and got hit in the face with so much performance from this car, nobody can figure out where the performance came from. Where did this change come from? And that's the most important part to all this that the team needs to figure out next, is where did this performance come from? So let's take a closer look at what did Aston Martin do this weekend. Did they bring an upgrade? Yes, they did. They brought a brand new front wing. And it looked like it really gave them a lot of performance from the eye test. It looked like that car had more performance with this new front wing when it was ran at a higher downforce setting. Is it track specific? So did the track play a role in any of this as well? I think possibly. I also think the weather conditions as well. I think it was nice and cool there for them. That also really helped with the performance side of things. And did they maximize the performance on the car in qualifying and also in the race? And yes, they did. Both drivers did an excellent job in both scenarios. Both were there when they needed to be, and they both capitalized when they had to, scoring maximum points for this team. A good haul of 16 points brought home by both drivers. And I think when we take a look closer at what does this say about their updates, because that is something that the team has really struggled with over the last 3-4 seasons, is bringing updates to their car and them not even working out. For the team, I think it's positive to note that the correlation between their CFD design time So where they imagine these new components, building these new components, and then putting them into the wind tunnel. So taking your CFD, your wind tunnel, and then bringing those components to the track, all of those things are talking to each other. So what CFD design is saying, the wind tunnel is producing, and the track is showing. That is super important for a team to have really nailed down, especially a team like Aston Martin, whose all of this equipment is brand new. It's state of the art. They've still got to figure out exactly how everything works with it all. So when we get to 2026, when something goes wrong somewhere in terms of the car, the setup, the balance, they know exactly how they can fix the mistakes or fast track a new component. And so I think that is just so important moving forward for this team, that correlation, those systems, those tools, they're all speaking to each other. So when we hit 2026, I think this team is going to be very competitive. What I think is crucial for Aston Martin moving forward is to understand and figure out exactly why the car was as fast as it was for the Hungarian Grand Prix, because Zandvoort's coming up. It's the next race up at the end of August when we come out of summer break. And that track is eerily similar to Hungary. I mean, it's not the same exactly, obviously, but it is eerily similar. And Aston Martin tends to run quite well there. And I think if they can get a good setup and get good performance from the car, they could have a really positive result there as well. Summer break is now upon us. We're going to have some more content on F1 coming out on TSN's YouTube, tsn.ca, also SportsCenter as well. I'm going to be at the Dutch Grand Prix. I'll be able to bring more to you then from there. So we'll talk to you all later.